Hi, this is Steve from PixelBump. Welcome to the Blood Pack tutorial. Hopefully you're here because you're interested in the Blood Pack. Well, let me show you a little bit of what it can do. So I have two different shots here to show you. The first one is a cut shot where our hero gets shot in the shoulder by an assailant. And the second shot is the coup de grace where the hero is shot in the head. Now, I've gone ahead on both of these and done tracking and rotoscoping, because what we're going to want to do on this first shot is have a large blood splatter hit the ground here right behind our hero as he falls to the ground. So for that, I was going to need a little bit of roto, and I was also going to need a track. And in this case, I used the Adobe Camera Tracker. So let's go ahead and get into the fun stuff. The first thing I did is I came in and added a muzzle flash from the Action Essentials 2-pack and just threw it here over the gun, let it go. But if we watch the shot, we'll see we've got a long way to go to make this an exciting action piece. So let's dive in. The first thing I'm going to want to do is have a blood hit here on the shoulder. And for that, I'm going to use a 3/4 forward hit. I'm going to drop it in and change the speed to be 40% of the regular motion. And then I'm going to find where it starts coming out. And as you can see, the directionality is screen left to right, and I need it to go right to left. So I'm going to just flip both of these and reposition. And I'll scale them down just a little bit. And then I'll go ahead and cut off the first couple frames, just so the impact is in action the second we see it. Now, the next thing I want to do is add a little bit of misting, just to add another layer to the blood hit. And for that one, I'm going to use the secondary mist 1 3/4 forward. I'm going to drop that guy in. I'm going to flip it. Then I'm going to scale it down until it is also in line with the other parts of the blood hit. Now we're only getting 2 frames out of this first part of the shot, so I don't need to do anything too drastic. Now what I usually do is put the mist above the hit itself, so that way there's just a little more interaction, a little more layering here. Now the next thing we need to do is a little color correction. And our blood is a little bright right now, so I'm just going to bring in a tint, take it down just a little bit, and then I'm going to grab a hue saturation and I'm going to drop it maybe 25%. And then I'm going to take that effect and I'm just going to apply it to my other pieces. And there we go. It's already starting to look a little more integrated. But I've lost more of that fine mist than I'd like. So I'm going to come in, grab a curves adjustment, and I'm going to go to the alpha and just boost it up a little bit. There we go. Just want to see a little bit more of that. Now the next thing we can do is come in and add a little motion blur. If you have Adobe CC, the pixel motion blur that comes with it works really nice. Just comes in, softens it up just a little bit. We are dealing with a little bit of an out of focus shot here, so we don't want anything to be too sharp. And that's looking pretty good. So let's get over to the second part where more fun stuff happens. And here we see it's the continuation of that motion. So we're going to need a blood burst coming from the back of the shoulder, and let's go ahead and add one to the front just to make it a more dynamic shot. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to start off with a side hit. I'm going to come in, drop my side hit down, again, increase the speed. And the reason you have to keep increasing the speed is because these elements were made to be used in fast or slow motion. Let me move my roto layer over a little bit. We were cutting off some of that blood burst. So in this case, I'm gonna need it going the opposite direction again. So let me go ahead and make that change. Let's kind of line up where we think this is gonna be and start scaling it into place. So since we've already started to have that blood burst happen, let's go ahead and just cut off a few frames here. Like that. And we'll go ahead and put the mist on top of the burst. And now I'm going to take the 3/4 back hit from number 3, and I'm going to line it up at 40% motion and scale it down. And I'll have the end point the exact same as the other shoulder hit. This is the same blood burst. So if we line it up correctly, it should look like an exact continuation of the same motion. So there, we've got some nice stuff happening. Let's go ahead and grab a little bit of our color correction again and just apply it to these elements. And we're also going to want to add some mist to these. So I'm going to grab my side mist, scale it, and let's get this guy over here. Bring it down a lot more. There we go. And let's apply those effects. And then again, as we did here where we took a continuation shot, I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to grab Blood Mist 1 and the 3/4 back. Increase the speed, shrink it down, let's go ahead and trim those endpoints. There we go. And again, I think both of these could use a little more opacity. So I'm going to do the same thing and add another curves adjustment to both of them. Just come in to the alpha and ramp it up a little bit. And you can save this effects chain as a preset if you know you're going to be doing a lot of the same shots over and over again. So let me go ahead and just add my pixel motion. You always want to make sure your pixel motion is the first effect in your chain. Otherwise, you'll see here, the blood changes color. And I'm going to add it to the front shoulder burst as well. Now let's see where we're at. All right, that's already starting to look pretty good. Now, If the blood pack did nothing more than this, give you complete perspective correct motion for every shot, it would still be pretty amazing. But we also want to have some interactivity here on the ground. So let's go ahead and grab the small splatter 05, and we're going to put it here underneath my roto. Actually, let's put it all the way at the bottom here. Make sure we're underneath our roto. I'm going to make it a 3D layer, turn on its motion blur, and then I'm going to parent it to this null. And this null I tracked is just right here, right behind his head where we want our effect to land. So let me come in, zero out my positions, and now I'm going to rotate it into place. And that's pretty close, but it's facing the wrong way, and it's also a little small. So I'm going to come in and scale it up a bit. Then I'll just move it along its x-axis until it's about where I want. Go ahead and just change that angle a little bit more. And we're not going to want this to hit until somewhere back here. And let's go ahead and speed this guy up as well. So when it does happen, it happens pretty fast. Let's go ahead, grab our effects, add it to that burst, and see what we've got. All right, this is coming together really nicely. Excellent. The last thing I'm going to want to do for this shot is add a color correction. And for that, I'm going to come down and grab my tritone. I'm going to take it from a sepia to a gray, and I'm just going to roll it back. I really want to just desaturate that look. Get me more of what I'm looking for is more of a bleach bypass kind of look. So let me bring up the brights a little bit, bring down the blacks just a little bit. I don't want to go too black and crush it all the way out. And then I'm going to remove just a little bit of red and just a little bit of blue from this image. And I think I want to come back here and scale these guys up a bit. Grab the burst, grab the mist. So fast, I just want to increase its size a little bit just to give it a little more chance of being noticed. And I think we're doing a good job here of having something that looks really good and was easy to do. So let's move on to shot number 2. So in this shot, we have the coup de grace being delivered. And again, I've tracked the shot. I tracked the head a little bit so I could add a bullet hole. And the bullet hole is just a little cutout from a special effects student's makeup work. I came in, tracked it, color corrected it into the head, gave it a little bit of blur to match up, added a nice muzzle flash from Action Essentials 2. So let's go ahead and build up this blood burst. Now the first thing we know we're going to need is that same splatter file. So let's go ahead, put that underneath the roto, and in this case I'm going to bring it out to where it's fully done. I'm going to time remap it, and then I'm going to copy this frame to the beginning so it'll stay the same the entire time. Next thing I'm going to do, turn on its 3D layer, turn on its motion blur, I'm going to rotate it till it's flat. I want it to come out at me, and I want to find when he's on the ground, I want to make sure it looks like it's in about the same position it was here. So just above his shoulder, somewhere around there is pretty good. And although this is a single shot, I do have the footage split into 2 clips. And that's because right here, I took a couple frames out so the head would snap back just a little bit faster. Let's go ahead and see. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to come in and grab my color corrections, apply those, and I'm going to apply a bit of a fast blur. Just because the footage here is pretty out of focus, and this is so sharp, it's just looking really out of place. So the next thing we want to do is add the bullet hit. And for this, I'm going to use some 3/4 forward motion, and I'm just going to drop them above my roto, and I'm going to come down, position them, speed them up, maybe 35% this time, scale them down, and let's find where, right there. That's about where we're going to want to see our effects start to happen. Let's go ahead and take a look. That's pretty good. Let's go ahead and grab our effects again. Drop them on. We'll move the mist over the burst. And we're going to go ahead and add our motion blur to the burst. Push it up front. There we go. Now we need to add one more secondary mist. And I'm just going to grab another 3/4 forward. Line it up. Scale it down. There we go. Nice misting. But let's go ahead and speed that guy up as well. And again, apply the color correction. Yep. Again, we've lost just a little too much for me, so I'm going to come back, add that curves right back on top again, go to the alpha, and just bring it back a little bit. There we go. Now, a couple extra flourishes we want to add. Another ground splatter to happen right as he's getting shot. We want to have more blood pouring out. So I'm going to duplicate my small splatter layer. I'm going to bring in my second splatter, and I'm going to scale this guy down a little bit. Maybe move him over. Let's see. And we'll turn off the time remapping. There we go. And we'll have this thing start to splatter. Let's see, let's go ahead and rotate its position 180 degrees. So that way the splatter will start there and build out. That looks about right. Let's go ahead, increase its speed. We don't want to lose the end of it, so we'll go ahead and turn timer mapping back on. That's pretty good. And now the last thing we want to add is just a little bit of camera splatter, just for fun, to add just another little fun element. So here, a couple frames after the bullet hit, bring that in just a little more. Make sure sure our timing is right. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Now I'm just going to go ahead, steal my color correction from the first shot, drop it in. And there you go. That's enough blood to make Quentin Tarantino happy. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on the blood pack. If you have any questions, please hit me up on Twitter or Facebook or in the comments. Thanks for watching. Go and create.